Hi everyone, welcome back. If you remember last time, I stripped the engine out ready because we need to try and straighten the frame up. Now what I've been doing, I've got this steel square section pipe. I've bolted it here through the back axle using a long threaded stud bar. I've bolted on like a welded in lug which is for the exhaust. I've got a piece of pipe here to hold it there, and I'll put a ratchet strap around here. And the idea is I'm going to warm up the pipe round here with a blowtorch and then tighten up the ratchet strap and try and bring the front end across. It was about 20mm out. I've already started and I pulled it across about halfway, and I'm going to try and heat it up and try and pull it the rest of the way across. Now I haven't got any oxy settling, but I've got three blowtorches, so I've been using those, and it seems to get it up just hot enough to be able to bend it. Right, here we go. Let's give this a go. Thing is, when you take the straps off, there is the spring back, so I've allowed for that, and that's about there. Right, that's about it, I think. Right, so I'm going to take a few measurements just to make sure it's right, because it needs a little bit more tweaking, and then the next thing is checking the wheels. Not only have we now got them in line so they're not out that way, but looking at it from a vertical perspective, that they were out a little bit. It was only about half a millimetre, but I mean half a degree, but about half a degree in the length of the forks means it's about 8mm out. So not only was it 20mm out offset with the frame bent, but the twist in the frame is given about another 8, so it was about just over an inch out of alignment. So I'm going to check that, and then if they're still out, I'm going to have to take the frame off and try and twist it. And what I was thinking of doing, this old downcomer which I'm going to be taking off, and the pipe here for the frame, is to try and maybe get a bar inside them and twist it one way or the other to try and get it to line up. So I'll see how that goes. Well, I'll just let you have a look at how I did this. Look here. You can see I've got this bar going right the way up the length of the bike. In the back here I've got this stud bar through the axle, as I said, bolted on tight. There's a bolt here going into a welded in boss threaded there. And then further up there's the pipe I mentioned, and at the very top the ratchet strap. So by tightening up the ratchet strap, I've been able to pull this across, try and get it in line, and it's in line now exactly. And so I've managed to straighten up the frame, so I'm happy with that. And I want to start putting the engine back in and strengthening the frame a little bit by putting some engine bars on, which it didn't have. Now what I've been doing, I'm starting to build a frame jig. So over the past few months I've been collecting together bits of steel. So I've got some C section or U section, whatever you want to call it, and some box section. Both 100mm, that one's 100 by 50. So today I'm hoping to try and assemble it. As I say, all this steel was all bought just as it came up on Gumtree, places like that. I bought it relatively cheap. So I'll talk through it. This is the main two lengths, and I think you can see there I've drilled a row of holes all the way along on both of those, so that when I put the post here to hold the rear axle, I can move that backwards and forwards if I like, and the same with the post to hold the headstock, which goes in here. I can move backwards and forwards depending on the bike which I'm trying to build. And I think I've got a wide enough range. I think I can put anything from a mini moto to a Honda Goldwing in it. The post, when it's in there, bolted in place by bolts which run through. All the bolts I've just made up from threaded stud bar, and I've welded nuts on the ends, so I've got a load of those. On this end I have two of these plates. They bolt onto there, they can move up and down, and again it's got a little bit of movement here. I think I've got about an inch movement on these, where there's 2 inch on the ones on the bottom, so I can get it wherever I want. Onto here you'll see there's 2 bolts here, and that's for this to bolt onto. And I've got a bar which goes in there, so when I tighten it up it doesn't crush. That goes in that hole, so when that's on there, the slotted hole, we can move it round from, I think it's from vertical to about 45 degrees or more movement, so more than enough movement for a need. That's longer than I think I'm going to need, but when I put the 2 nuts on there, I can always put a piece of pipe on to take up the rest of the movement I need. These 2 go into here, and you can see they're just made of aluminium cones, so they can grip into the headstock itself. Now I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I made those out of aluminium, but what I was thinking of was that if I make them out of steel, they might damage the races of the head bearings if I've got to leave the head bearings in any time. Aluminium being a bit softer, hopefully it won't cause as much damage. Right, on the back end I've got these plates for the axle. Now they can go either at the back or at the front, depending on the length of the bike, and again that can move a little bit. And I've got 2 of these spacers are going to go into there, again to stop these 2 plates pulling in when it's tightened up, hold it solid. And I've got it again, a couple of long pieces of stud bar which is going to fit through there, and hopefully that will be sufficient for when the engine plate, the back axle plates are put onto there. I can bolt them into place, get them all set up correctly. I'm not 100% happy with the setup at the back here, so I may change that in the future, but for now it'll suffice. So I think I'll start just assembling everything now, and Right, so there we go, that's it all assembled. It just needs all nipping up, but I'll do that once I get the bike, the frame in place, and I'll have to make sure everything's straight, all square and level before we tighten them up. I'll just take you for a walk around it. So you can see the top plates with the headstock bar, and that can adjust up and down, and then nip it up with these two nuts and bolts through there. And see, we're on casters here, and the casters do have a lock on one side, so I can lock front and back. Down the bottom there you see all the holes along there, so I can move the post along to wherever I need it. And the same with the headstock here. These two, or these 4 bolts, hold it onto the post, but we can then move it up and down to wherever we want on there. Back end, same type of thing. We've got a little bit of adjustment with some of the bolt holes, and we've also got casters, and then we've got this plate here. And again, you can see there's a couple of spare holes, so I can move that backwards and forwards, so I can adjust it by about 1 inch. But these at the bottom aren't tight, holding the post in place. These are a little bit of movement, so we can take it up to a fraction of 1 inch front and back. And then this is the plate and the axle bolts. Now, to hold the axle plates in place, so they'll go onto here and here. See the bars in between to stop it squashing. The back end can move up and down as well. Now the other thing for engine rails, so if I have the frame so it comes from up here, goes down and then along here, then we need something to support the frame, and for that I managed to get hold of a piece of this, which is normally used in the likes of suspended ceilings and things like that. So what I was thinking of is getting a couple of clamps just to clamp that underneath at either side on my main frame here. I can move it backwards and forwards, and then make a couple of clamps so when I take the pipes down to here and along, I can clamp it somehow. Maybe through these slotted holes, I don't know. Maybe something like an exhaust clamp, how it goes through, and 2 nuts on the bottom of like a U-bolt. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my channel. I hope it's been interesting. I'll give you ideas if you want to build your own chassis jig. Next stage is going to be stripping down the forks and the back wheel off my bobber, then trying to get in the jig. So I'm hopefully going to do that next time. So in the meantime, stay safe and hope to see you next time.